Now, here's some stats about Dunmore East Lifeboat that you may not be aware of. In 136 years, Dunmore East RNLI lifeboats have launched nearly 1,000 times, saved over 305 lives and aided 1,315 people in distress on the sea along the Waterford and Wexford coast. And you can read about all of this and more in a new book which is coming out very shortly called Dauntless Courage. And it's written by David Carroll, who should know all about this because he grew up in Dunmore East and his dad was the harbour master, a very highly respected man called Captain Desmond Carroll. And David's on the line now. Hi David, how are you today?
Hi Geoff, good morning. Hope you're well.
I'm not too bad at all. Do you miss Dunmore?
Very much so, yeah. I really do. Love to be back.
Must have been incredible
really
growing up there because, I mean, what would have been the decades? 50s and 60s?
50s and 60s, yeah. I was born in 1947 and my parents moved to Dunmore shortly after I was born. So I don't obviously remember anything else except growing up in Dunmore.
And you lived in the house down the harbour, didn't you? Just behind the memorial.
It's now gone more or less where the memorial guard, where the people lost at sea, if anybody, that roughly the location where the house was.
So you're obviously a great lover of local history as well, and you've done a huge amount of research for the book about the lifeboat in Dunmore. But you've written other pieces as well, haven't you? You've been on the Tides and Tales blog with Andrew Doherty.
That's right. That's how it kind of all started. Andrew Doherty, as you know, I sent him something and wondered would he enjoy reading it, and he did. It was about growing up in Dunmore East in the 1950s, and he took a piece from it and put it up as one of his weekly blogs. At that stage, I'd become really, I loved his blogs every Friday. It was something to look forward to because they were always interesting, and I was amazed at it. And then I got to know Andrew, and he said, have you any other memories? Well, I started writing little pieces, shipwrecks and different things, and memories, and researching them, and I got really, really into it. And then Andrew then went to a sort of monthly format for his blog so he could do more research and so forth. So the guest blogs kind of fell a little bit by the wayside, and that's how it all started. So not only has Andrew got his own new book out now, he's also very much responsible for your one. For our one, yeah.
He's a great chap. He's a great chap.
Terrific all along. He's been very helpful with pieces of information and courage. So
he's a great chap. The book is available. Just in case I forget, Andrew's book is now in the book centre in the city, just in case people are trying to get hold of it and make a lovely Christmas present, as would yours, of course, David. I saw a picture recently. The credit unions of Waterford and St Dominic's gave you sponsorship for this, and you had a bit of a do down in the harbour, down in the lifeboat, on the lifeboat station.
Yeah, that's right. Now there's a small committee in Dunmore formed to sort of get the book published and promoted and distributed, and they're working really hard. Actually, some of them I haven't met because of the COVID restrictions. I can't get down to Dunmore, but they're working away really hard, and they've done a marvellous job because when we had the book sort of finished, we were unable to get any sort of grant for it, and really the only way to get it published was to go down the sort of commercial sponsorship route, and they got together and started canvassing the local, which was tough now in the sort of
the way things are.
The way things are. But this has been really, the generosity of businesses and companies and individual people has been just tremendous, and they've got the money together to have it published. And the great thing is that it's been published by a local firm in Waterford, GVF Printing, and the proprietor is Bill Deavy, who's actually a volunteer on the lifeboat.
That's right, Bill. Good guitar player.
So it's all sort of, it's great that somebody, their local economy is benefiting from the book.
Now, you sat down 2 years ago to start research in the book, so tell us a bit about that. I know you went over to Poole in Dorset, where the RNLI HQ is, to get info. And
that's right. That was probably sort of the icing on the cake coming towards near the end of the research. Was sort of 2 years ago exactly, and it was in the Woodlands Hotel. I was at a lecture that a well-known Waterford writer, Dr. Pat McCarthy, who actually lives in Dublin, he was lecturing about the 1918 election, and we went down, myself and my wife, we went down to listen to the lecture. I knew Pat and was interested, and I met Brendan, and that's Brendan Dunn of the Lifeboat, and he sort of asked me would I be interested in writing a full history, because what had happened, I wanted to write about the weather disaster of 14 and asked him for the documents relating to it. So he knew I was interested, and he said, would you go the whole hog and do the whole book rather than just one particular part of it. And Brendan was sort sort of worried that the sort of history was being almost lost, and that it soon was documented, generation to the future wouldn't sort of know about the Dunmore lifeboat. So he was very keen that a book was brought out to bring that to the fore.
To record it, yeah. And so are there any records in Dunmore, or did you get all the records from the lifeboat HQ in Poole and Dorset?
Yes, well, it was a combination. There's some the original minute book that they kept from 1884 in Dunmore is still preserved there. It's a wonderful old document, like handwritten entries, and annual reports were printed in the local newspapers, and somebody has cut them out and pasted them into the minute book. And that was a great source of information for the early years. And then really newspapers was the big main source of information. And then the RNLI have a wonderful website where you can look back on all their records of so there's great information to be got if you know when you know where to find it and learn to find it.
Sorry, I'm bumping into you there. Sorry. There's some great stories, obviously, and they're all documented in the book, but also some great personalities as well. I mean, there was kind of records set in Waterford, the very first, or in Dunmore, the very first female lifeboat crew. Isn't that right?
That's right. That's Frances Glody. So Frances was featured in the book.
And Stephen Whittle then is highly decorated.
Stephen, yeah. Well, just to let your listeners know that just coming up to 50 years to one of the most famous rescues by the Dunmore lifeboat, and that was in 25th of November 1970 when three crew of three were of the fishing boat the Glen Malure from Kilmore Quay were rescued off the hook. Sadly, one crew member, a young lad called Pat Barry of Lade, was lost, but three were rescued, and one of the rescued fishermen was actually the coxswain of the Kilmore lifeboat, which was rather interesting, and Stephen was awarded for that rescue.
Yeah, he's a legend.
They hope to launch the book to coincide with the 50th anniversary of that rescue.
You have a lot of photographs as well in the book. Where did you pick those up, Dave?
Just about everywhere, Geoff. Lots of people you know. John Aylward of the Wander Inn was really good. Bill Colfer, who you would know as a sailing person from Dunmore. His late brother John was an artist as well as a lifeboat volunteer, and the family very kindly allowed us to use lots of John's paintings. And then there's Brian Clear, an artist who lives in Passage, but is really a Wexford marine artist. And Brian was terribly generous, allowed us to use all his wonderful photographs related to the book. And there's Neville Murphy, the current volunteer in the lifeboat, is a wonderful photographer. Yeah. And he has captured, in the last, 20 years or so, tremendous, a whole portfolio of wonderful photographs, all in colour, naturally.
Yeah, great.
So it's a terrific mix of old and new, which I think people will like.
I can't wait to see it. And going back to, the first, what one do you remember first, David, in Dunmore? Which lifeboat?
It was all the time I lived in Dunmore, would you believe, there was just one lifeboat, and that was the Annie Blanche Smith. It was there when I was born, and when I was leaving in 1970, it was still there.
That ended up at Israel or something, did it? I can't remember.
I'm not too sure then. Well, it was a sad ending, and I've seen photographs of it in a sort of later stage, and it looked a bit sad. Sure. But the lifeboat that sort of came after that, the St. Patrick, ended up in Australia.
That's the one I'm thinking of, I think, yeah.
Yeah, with photographs of it.
And now we have the Elizabeth and Ronald's in Dunmore now at the moment. And
that's the current lifeboat. That came in 1996, and is due to be replaced probably next year. Now, obviously with COVID and that, things have been altered, but the plan is that it will be replaced by one of the what's called a Shannon class lifeboat, which are really the cutting edge technology with water jets. It doesn't have a propeller.
All right.
Amazing sort of new
very
technology.
High tech. There's such incredible pieces of equipment, the lifeboats, and that they're so high tech. It's amazing. If anybody gets a chance to have a look over one, they really should. The book comes out when, David?
It will be out for the anniversary of the Glen Malure rescue on the 25th November. 20th November. So there'll be an online launch of the book, so people should look out for that. And if they check the website, they'll be able to keep updated with what's happening. You've
been very generous because you're going to donate all the proceeds to the fundraising branch in Dunmore East for the lifeboat.
That's correct. But the whole book has been sort of one of generosity, people donating money to have it published and people donating photographs and stories, and really terrific the sort of generosity and goodwill that book has generated.
Great. Well, there's a website to have a look, Dauntless Courage. It's called DunmoreLifeboatBook.com, and you can order on that, David, can't you?
You can order online, yes. quite a number of people have ordered already. It's a great
Oh, good. So you can do that already.
committee in Dunmore looking after all that. Doing a wonderful job.
Great. It's DunmoreLifeboat.com, all one word, .com. And it's a great picture on the front as well. What's that one, David? That's a rescue
Okay,
going way
that's
back.
the lifeboat is the Annie Blanche Smith, and the steamship beside it is the SS Irish Willow, and it comes from 1942. There was a ship sunk in the Atlantic called the Empire Breeze, and it was sinking, and the Irish Willow was close to it and got to it and got saved the crew, them on board, and they got to reach Waterford Harbour, and the Dunmore lifeboats went out and took the survivors. Maybe 2 trips were all brought into the hall in Dunmore, where the local Red Cross and the doctor and the nurse attended to them, and then they set off, I think, back to the UK.
Incredible
So
stories.
yeah.
All the stories
So
are just
that's featured in the book, and that piece was written by Andrew Doherty because he had written it already, so very kindly said we could use his transcript.
great. So we look forward to that then. The release date is the 25th of November for that anniversary, and the website is DunmoreEastLifeboatBook.com, isn't that right?
That's correct, Geoff.
David, listen, it's a pleasure talking to you, and I hope we get to see you down in Dunmore soon.
Pleasant for me to talk to you because the Harrises and myself go back a long way.
Certainly do. You were in the flour mills, weren't you, David, in Ferrybank?
Your dad gave me my first job, so always very grateful to him and to your family.
The flour mills in Ferrybank was a special place, wasn't it?
Absolutely, a wonderful, wonderful place.
Great team. We only lost Jimmy Searson quite recently.
I know.
Sadly.
I read all that. Yeah, I followed all that.
Lovely man. He knew an awful lot about that flour mills. I think he knew every stone in the place. David, listen, thank you very much indeed, and we look forward to seeing the book out on the 25th, and I'm sure we'll bump into each other between now and then anyway.
Absolutely. Okay. Thanks a lot, Geoff.
Thanks, David.